Hey guys, it's Jenny here, and today I have a very lengthy TBR for you guys. So it's only the 24th of April right now, but due to some extensive scheduling and some new things I'm trying to incorporate into my TBR, I decided to film this early. So in this video, I'm going to just be going over the books I'm going to be reading and what they're about, and then briefly discussing something at the end of this video. I'm also going to be posting a video about how I work out my reading schedule and stuff like that. So if you'd like to know more about that, keep your eyes peeled. But let's just get on into it. So the first book I'm going to be starting in the month of May is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 3 in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and this is going to be a reread for me. I'm actually just rereading this one because Court of Frost and Starlight is coming out in 6 days on my birthday. So yeah, this is going to be the first one I read in May. I can't really go into depth about that one because it is the 3rd book in a series, and I obviously don't want to spoil that series for anybody because you all just need to read that one. But the next book I plan to read in May is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Sienna McGuire. This is book 2 in the Wayward Children series. Again, I can't go into much depth about this, but basically the first one is Every Heart a Doorway, and that centers on a bunch of children who each of them end up going through their own door, which leads to a different mythical realm. And basically it centers on all these children that are at this sort of home for the children who have come back from their magical realms, but they haven't been the same. And this is just all their journeys trying to get back to their actual home, the one that they found within the realms that they discovered. So yeah, I'm going to be reading this. The next one I'm going to be reading is Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. This is book 4 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. Once again, this is a reread for me. Actually, I've read this book multiple times, but I just decided I really wanted more Rick Riordan books in my life, and I'm like, hey, I can just reread them all. So I'm going to be rereading this one. I can't really go into depth about this one, but The Lightning Thief, which is the first book, centers on a 11-year-old named Percy Jackson who keeps getting kicked out of school. He keeps getting, like, confronted by monsters, and then he discovers he's a descendant from the Greek gods, and he's a demigod. So he goes on this quest and discovers this camp, and it's just a super good book. It's full of Greek mythology, and it's so fantastic. You guys should totally check it out. Okay, so next on my list, I'm going to be reading Unravel Me by Taher Mafi. I'm actually buddy reading this with Melissa over at Sassy Ginger Book Obsession. If you guys haven't checked out her channel, you totally should. She's totally amazing, and she's such a sweet person. And plus, we have such similar book interests, so if you like my taste in books, then you should definitely check her out, because we're like 2 peas in a pod when it comes to book tastes. But yes, we buddy read Shatter Me in April, and now we're going to be buddy reading the rest of the series, starting with book number 2. So I can't go into depth about this, but the first book is about this girl named Juliet Ferrars who has the ability to kill people with her touch. And the government, the reestablishment, wants to use her as a deadly weapon, and stuff goes down, and it's just such an epic dystopian. And even though you guys aren't in the dystopian mood, it's like a dystopian fantasy, and it just doesn't have the feel of a dystopian. It's like very cliche. It's like perfect, and you will love it. It's amazing. You should totally check it out. Okay, so we're buddy reading that. Let's see. Okay, next will be Beneath the Sugar Skies by Sienna McGuire. This is book 3 in the Wayward Children series. I think these can also act as kind of like a standalone, but it's better if you read them in order because you kind of know who the characters are better and what's going on and stuff. But yeah, I can't go into depth about this one, but I really want to get to this. It's super short. And yeah, I just really loved the first book, so I'm hoping I like the other two as much as I did the first one. Let's see. Okay, next is The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. This is book 5 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and the conclusion. This is the end of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and honestly, I've read this book twice before, and I cried both times. It's just, this series has such a special place in my heart. Like, I can't even describe how much I love this series, and this conclusion was just everything. So, definitely read Percy Jackson if you haven't already, because it's got so much funny, witty sarcasm, and they've got so many fantastic characters and so much Greek mythology. It's just so good. So the next book I have on my list is actually a book I don't own yet. So I will be reading A Court of Frost and Starlight. I had to schedule it after I read A Court of Wings and Ruin, so that's why it's so late into my TBR, but I will definitely be reading A Court of Frost and Starlight as soon as I finish Court of Wings and Ruin. So that's on there. And basically that's just the novella that bridges the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy with the new spin-off series that she's writing with this one. And it's got all the same characters in it, but it's more of a novella. It's just a really long novella. It's almost 300 pages, so significantly shorter than the rest of the books, but significantly longer than a novella. It's like the perfect in-between. So, the next book I have is Ignite Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is book 3 in the Shatter Me series, which was originally a trilogy. Like, I will literally read you. So, this author's note says, "Thank you for following Juliet's journey with me. Thank you for caring so deeply. It is my very great hope that you will find this a very worthy final installment." So we all thought Ignite Me was going to be the very end, and I was content. But then she's like, Restore Me is coming out, and I'm like, what? Anyways, this is going to be a reread for me, and I'm pretty sure I'm also buddy reading this with Melissa. And yeah, this is book 3. I can't go into depth about this, but this is a very good book. I enjoy it immensely. And I honestly don't remember much about this one. The one that I always find myself rereading is Shatter Me, and I haven't actually reread the other two, so I'm very eager to do so because I feel like there's a lot I'm forgetting. But yes, definitely check the series out. Okay. Next is going to be... Oh no, my bookmark fell out of it. Next is going to be Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is book 2 in the Grisha trilogy. The centers on a girl named Alina Starkov, who, she is in a regiment, and she, her regiment is traveling across the Shadowfold, which is this swath of darkness that nobody has been able to get across, because it's, like, it's infested with these dark, demonic, disgusting monster creatures, and nobody's been able to get through it in decades. And anyways, she unleashes this dormant magic that she didn't even know she had, and suddenly she's just thrust into the spotlight, and the Darkling wants her to like train and be able to enhance her magic so that she can destroy the Shadowfold. And yeah, she was originally kind of like in the poverty levels and she was an orphan, but then with this magic she gets thrust into this wealthy Grishaverse, and guys, this book took me by surprise. The first book, Shadow and Bone, took me by surprise. I was like, wow. But I'm very excited to get to this. And I can't wait for... Sorry, I never actually read the synopsis for this. Oh. But yeah, definitely check this series out. If you're able to, like... I guess if it's easy for you to keep track of names and the languages that authors make up, then definitely read this, because it did take me a little while to get used to the languages and like use context clues to figure out what certain words meant in the Grisha language. But overall, the story was fantastic, and I can't wait to continue. Let's see. Okay, the next book on the list is Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. I am so excited for this book. Oh my god. I just want to scream. Yeah, this was the sequel nobody was expecting. Everybody thought that the series had ended at Ignite Me. It was the Shatter Me trilogy. In the author's note, she said it was a final installment. And then, what, 2-3 years later, she's like, surprise! That was like life-changing for all the Shatter Me fans. So I'm dying to get to this. I have no idea what is inside the contents of this book, because I've read all of the other ones, but I've never read this one. And I just want to drink the knowledge of this book and know what happens. I can't wait for this book, honestly. Okay, so next I have a doozy. I actually have 2 ginormous books on this list. No, more than that. I have quite a few bulky books. Next is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. I figured it was high time I finally picked this series back up. Especially after I finished Court of Frost and Starlight. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I don't know when she's planning on releasing the next book in that series, so I might as well start reading this so that I can be done with the series by the time Kingdom of Ash comes out in October. Like, these are hefty books. Like, this is like 500 and something pages. Queen of Shadows is even bigger. I got Empire of Storms up there and Tower of Dawn. And then there's also Assassin's Blade, which is a series of novellas, I believe. But I plan to read Heir of Fire. I can't go into depth about this, but basically, Throne of Glass is about this chick named Selena Sardathian, who is the world's most greatest assassin. And basically, she's in these salt mines, which is basically like a prison. And she gets bursted out. She gets like taken out of the jail to compete in the king's like competition to be the king's champion, which is the king's personal assassin. So she has to go up against 23 thieves, liars, stealers, you name it, murderers, to win this title. But then dark things keep stirring in the castle, and her competitors get picked off one by one. So not only is she fighting for her freedom when she becomes a king's champion, the contract is after 4 years of servitude, she gets freed and she will gain her freedom. But not only is she fighting for her freedom now, but she's fighting for her life, because all the competitors of this competition are getting picked off one by one. And that is what Throne of Glass is about. It was a seriously good book. And honestly, if you don't want to read it for Throne of Glass, read it for the sequel, Crown of Midnight, because I loved the sequel so much. And honestly, this book just really intimidates me. I don't know why, because Court of Mist and Fury is bigger than this, and I reread that book all the time, but there's just something about this book that's just really intimidating to me, and I don't know what. But yes, I have Heir of Fire. Then on my list is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is book 3 in the Grisha trilogy, the conclusion. I already told you what Shadow and Bone is about, so yes, I plan to finish off the series in the month of May. And yeah, Ruin and Rising. I hope I like that, because I haven't heard anybody talk about that one. I've mainly heard them talk about Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm. Okay, but the last book that I have scheduled so far for my TBR is The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. This is book 1 in the Heroes of Olympus series, and this is actually Percy Jackson's spin-off book. He did not stop writing about the characters in Percy Jackson just because Percy Jackson and the Olympians ended. No, he just added a couple characters in the Heroes of Olympus and then mashed them all together and made an even better series. Like, why not? But basically, this centers on 3 demigods, Jason, Piper, and Leo. And yeah, they go on these quests. Jason doesn't remember who he is or where he is. Piper's father has been missing for days, and she keeps getting these terrible dreams, and she doesn't understand why her boyfriend doesn't recognize her. And this freak storm hits the school trip, and all these half-bloods get whisked off to Camp Half-Blood, and it just all goes from there. So yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 books on my May TBR so far. And actually, the way that I have it scheduled right now, I have it scheduled that I will be finishing all of my reading 2 days before May ends. But I don't know how that's going to go, because I have some very intense reading planned right now. However, I wanted to give you guys the announcement that all of the books I just said are up for buddy reading grabs, aside for the ones that I'm buddy reading with Melissa. So Unravel Me, Ignite Me, and Restore Me are not up for buddy reading, but everything else is open for buddy reading. Like, you guys keep saying, hey, would it be cool if we buddy read? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But I had already started my April reading, so I figured I'd put it off until this month. So, how this is gonna go is I already wrote out my May schedule, like when I'm gonna be reading, and organized, like worked around my buddy reading for Melissa. So, I worked out a schedule, and if any of you are interested in buddy reading any of these books with me this month, then I will have a Google Docs linked down below in the description for the list of books, as well as when I will be starting them and how many pages I'm going to be reading in a day. And all you have to do is write down your names. And there can be more than one reader. I mean, as long as I catch it before I start, then I don't mind having a group of readers. But yeah, I would like to get more buddy reading, because it's really fun to have somebody to talk about the book with, and it's just really nice. And I really enjoyed buddy reading with Melissa, so I figured, and you guys keep asking about it, so I'm like, I'm just gonna pan it out this way so that everybody has the opportunity to pick which books, instead of like having to incorporate a bunch of different books in. And so yeah, I realize that most of these books are sequels, so it's a little bit harder to incorporate buddy reading into this month's TBR, but I figured I would offer it anyways. This is something that if you guys like the idea of it, I plan to carry it on to next month for June, when I'm not reading so many sequels. So yeah, these are all the books I'm going to be reading in May. Oh my god, look at all the sticky notes. Dropped all those books. But yeah, I'm also planning to do a video where I explain my system nowadays of how I read. But yeah, this concludes my May wrap-up. I'm short a book because Court of Frost and Starlight is not in my possession yet. But there you have it. I know this is a super intimidating TBR, and I'm honestly very scared. But my reading's been going very, very, very swell lately. So I keep dropping them. But I think I can handle it. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and press the bell if you'd like to be notified when I post new content. And always feel free to comment. My email is in the description if you have any questions, or if you have a new idea for the channel, or if you have any questions on my buddy reading systems, or stuff like that. So yeah, and don't forget there is a Google Doc linked in the description where I will have all these books listed and you can write your name down. Hey guys, it's Present Jenna. So I also just wanted to include when you write your name, please also include your channel name, because I know that some of you don't have your actual name within your handle, so that way I know how to identify you in more ways than one when it comes to buddy reading. So yeah, I hope some of you joined me, and I hope you enjoyed this video for the buddy read for whichever book you are interested in buddy reading with me. Yeah, so thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed.